right, so thank you for joining us today. I'm Samantha Gross, Associate Dean for Academic Initiatives at Bucks County Community College.
And I'm Christina McGinley, Executive Director of the Foundation and Alumni Office. Okay, should I go? Do you want me to keep going, Sam?
Yeah, sure, go
Okay. So we're here today to talk about some of the ways that we've been supporting our students who are basic needs insecure, and then some of the ways that we've fast-tracked that amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think that once Sam and I and other collaborators throughout campus realized that there was such a significant population of students on our campuses that were really struggling and really basic needs insecure, we kind of launched an all-out effort a few years ago to see how we can better support them. We support students, with scholarships and all different types of other ways, but it seemed that we were kind of missing the mark on other ways to support them, whether that was financially, or emotionally. And Sam will kind of take us through that. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah. So, I think many assume that our students' basic needs are being met, but as Christina alluded to, that's just not the reality for so many of our students. We have services in place, like many other institutions, to help students with academic barriers and academic needs, as well we should. But before we started and this group got this basic needs and security group got together, we really asked ourselves, are our students' non-academic needs being met? Are those academic needs that would be, non-academic barriers that would prevent them from learning, prevent them from going to class? Are they being met? Are we helping them with those? So it's things like food and childcare, transportation, housing, and mental health. And these are all things that the keynote today mentioned as well. Oh, I didn't know it spins.
Oh, wow, it spins.
Yeah, how that happened.
So there's, it looks like many of the participants in the room today work at community college, and there's that feeling of, well, isn't it affordable or isn't it cheap? I hate the word cheap, but it gets thrown out there a lot. And while our tuition is certainly significantly lower than other tuitions in the area, we can all agree that all the other costs associated with college aren't discounted just because you decided to go to a community college versus a university. So books, fees, transportation, your bills at home, those are all still the same regardless of where you go to college. So even though our tuition is lower, there's still a lot of associated costs and fees that can really prevent a student from staying enrolled in their classes. I mean, I'm sure as faculty you've heard this, and we've had people reach out to the foundation before that says, my student can't pay $30 for their clearances and they're going to drop out of the course. Is there anything you can do? So, we are certainly aware of the financial challenges that come along even with a lower cost college.
So, as I think we have many Bucks people on the call, so you may have heard some of these numbers before, but as we said, we started with food insecurity as our focus, and we did a couple of surveys. In 2019, Bucks County Community College students were part of the Hope Lab study, and the results from that study indicated that 52% of the respondents, of our students who responded to this survey, and Christina, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we had over 500 students take the survey.
We did, over 500 students took the survey.
Yeah, which is great. That 52% of them were food and or housing insecure. And we expected the number to be high, but I think to be over that halfway mark was pretty shocking. Prior to this, we had done an internal survey, I think about a year and a half, 2 years before, and we did not look at housing insecurity. We focused on food insecurity, and about 30% of our students were food insecure. And to me, that was a really staggering number to think. I think of that 30 seat classroom to have 9 students sitting there, and 10% indicated it was a constant problem to have 3 students sitting in that 30-person classroom, hungry, food insecure throughout the entire semester. It really bothered me. And so to see that a little bit more than half of our students are dealing with this is so significant. And for me, and I know for Christina and everyone that's part of this group, and really so many people at the college, we recognized more needed to be done. I'm just gonna put them all on here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the transitions were still on there. So as we mentioned before, it was really in 2018 to 2019 that we started looking at this issue from many different people around campus, counseling, provost office, foundation, faculty members, and we decided that we just need to do something about this. And we kind of created an ad hoc committee and went nuts with it. So we started off with a syllabus statement that would refer students to an application that they would fill out, a very simple application to gather data. And then once they fill out that application on a referral basis, they'd receive a $50 grocery store gift card, a $40 cafeteria gift card when we were on campus, and then a snack pack and access to snack packs if they needed more than one. And we'd also include a list of area resources like the food pantries and the hours around the county. And one of the nice things that came out of that was our counselors were then able to make direct referrals to the Bucks County Opportunity Council. They've been a great partner for us. They've saved, students from eviction. They helped them in their self-sufficiency program. So it's been great to see that kind of expand. So since we started this program, we've received 190 applications from 131 individuals. That number has significantly increased in April when we went fully remote, and a lot of our students really felt the impact of COVID. I think, Sam, what was it, like 125% increase in applications that month?
200%.
Oh, 200%. Okay.
It was 200, yeah. Yep.
So the snack pack, so just going back to before we went remote. So we just tried to put some things into place. We knew this was just really a Band-Aid on a bigger situation, but it caused students to be able to get some immediate assistance. And it also allowed students the opportunity to speak with a counselor one-on-one if they wanted to. Sometimes it happened in person, sometimes it happened over the phone. And it allowed that human component and for the students to have a safe space to share maybe some other things that they needed help with.
Okay, so this year, this academic year, we responded to some suggestions and continued our research and added, for example, fresh fruit baskets around campus on all 3 campuses of our physical campuses prior to the shutdown. And this was really in response to student requests. We surveyed every student who applied for assistance at the end of the semester, received a brief survey about their experience and what services they did or didn't utilize that we suggested, and what else they think we should be doing. And a lot of students suggested that we have some snacks, some healthy snacks available for free on campus. And um, we came together as a group and decided that we would have fresh fruit around campus. And I think it was mostly Christina worked with Culinart, who's our food service provider, and they provided the fruit. We were able to purchase it from them at a reduced rate, not what you would pay if you walked into the cafeteria and bought a banana. They would assemble the baskets for us, and then we had a student worker who worked in the foundation go twice a week, pick up the fruit baskets, put them on places we had identified around campus as being sort of highly traveled by students, and then our student worker would go midweek and replenish the fruit. And I have to say it was immediately a success. I think students really responded to this. There were some particular hot spots in the library and near student life where we really couldn't refill the fruit fast enough. Also, as the program became more developed and we're hearing more from students, we recognized, as Christina said, that for some students, the $50 gift card was great. You know, they were waiting for a job to start or VA benefits to kick in or whatever it was, and that little bridge was really helpful to them. But there were many students for whom this was not enough, and they needed resources that really no one in the group had expertise on. They needed, you know, to be able to navigate social services, which can be, with all the forms and applications, can be really tricky. So we were able to hire a very part-time caseworker, a faculty member who worked about 7, if that, get how many hours? Just a few hours a week with students who needed more than that bridge. And so she would make the referrals to the Opportunity Council, or she would sit with them, or over the phone go step by step with them of, you know, how exactly do you apply for SNAP benefits for students for whom that was appropriate. The foundation started fundraising for food pantries. So we had planned in March on actually doing a soft opening of a food pantry on our Bristol campus. Obviously, that didn't happen, and planned for openings of food pantries at our Percy campus and our main campus in Newtown. Obviously, none of that was realized this semester. As I said before, we also conducted a survey with the Hope Center for College, Community, and Justice, and we really felt like we needed to do more once COVID hit and the stores were closed, but we also had to change the way we did things. So the changes that we made had to be little things like, you know, we had to mail the gift cards to the students now. They couldn't come pick them up on campus, and so we had to add their address to the application for the gift cards. But we also realized that there were bigger things that were going on for students besides just we needed their address. And as we saw the number of applications sharply increase during the second half of March and into April, we partnered with a foundation who's centered in Newtown, the Magic Charities Foundation, to do food distributions for our students. So any student who had previously applied for food assistance was contacted, and we said, hey, we have this charity, this group that's coming in, and we're going to have food for you. Sign up if you want to come pick it up. And so What you see in the picture here are the directors, I guess they're the directors. I'm not sure what their title is, but they lead the Magic Charities Foundation, and they really helped us so much in learning about how to do these food distributions, and providing all of this food, putting it together, and delivering it to us at the Newtown campus. We did 3 pickups as the semester wound down, and between the 3 pickups, the charity donated 1,500 pounds of food, which was all received by our students. Some of them came multiple times, some of them came just once. But we know, and Christina will talk a little bit about this, that this was something that students really needed. Something else I want to point out about this is, again, responding to what the students are telling us. So each time we did a distribution, we asked them, how did it go, and some feedback. And so one of the things we got from them, for example, was that they needed things other than food. So in the last distribution, we were also able to provide for them soap and laundry detergent. One student in particular indicated that she needed pull-ups for her young child and wipes, and the charity was very generous and bought the pull-ups and the wipes for that particular student.
And to touch quickly on the food pantries, Carol Tyler of the Tyler family is the one who made the donation to give us the startup money to be able to open these pantries and run them for about a year. So Sam and I will have to chat sometime offline about if there's a way to maybe even get on campus to get the groundwork started on some of these food pantries, so that one day, either when our students return or perhaps we can do designated pickup days to visit the pantry. I think that's something that we could probably do in a safe, social distanced way. So as Sam mentioned, what we've been trying to do is really communicate with the students and really respond to what the students need help with. So that we constantly chat with them, faculty members, other organizations in the county, and other colleges to see what are they doing, how can we best support our students and keep them enrolled and on the path to success. So one thing we did this semester that was new was we publicly advertised food assistance. In the past, it was very quiet and by referral basis. So we did a Canvas announcement, which was very successful. That resulted in a lot of students learning about the assistance. We did social media, Instagram, and then we emailed the students scholarship opportunities, but also the opportunity to receive food assistance. We did receive CARES Act money for students for emergency assistance as they made that transition to remote learning. So we received about $1.5 million, and the students who were eligible to receive the money were contacted via email, and Sam might be able to provide a better amount on how much went out to students or how many students applied. But we're kind of using that as our groundwork and process on creating our own student emergency fund that will be fundraised through the Foundation Board of Directors. It's something we've been wanting to do and talking about for the last year, but we just really wanted to fast track it. We know that money that we receive through the CARES Act will be spent pretty quickly, but our students, we all understand the long-term financial impact this potentially could have on our most vulnerable students. So the Student Emergency Fund would help support our students. They could apply for a one-time up to $500 emergency grant, and that money would actually be paid right to their vendor. We're hoping to not have to give it to the student. We don't want it to impact their financial aid in any way. But if we have to, we have to, but we'll do our best to pay it right to the vendor, whether it's a car repair, transportation to a relative's funeral, utility being shut off. And Sam will get into more detail about that in the next slide. But we'll be launching a fundraising campaign with the Foundation Board of Directors. We've already raised $10,000 for it. So we're hoping that over the summer, to raise upwards of $50,000 so that we can make a real impact for our students.
So the keynote presenter today had mentioned that they started a FAST Fund. And FAST Fund is something that Sarah Goldrick-Rab, who the keynote also referenced, started up, and it stands for Faculty and Students Together. And it's a structure for student emergency funding that is run by faculty. Faculty make the referrals, and a small group of faculty decide to grant or not grant the funding. And so when we started to think about what we wanted our emergency funding response to look like, we really modeled ourselves after the FAST Fund. So they're not here today, but Mandy Riley has been very involved in this project. She's a full-time counselor. And Denise May, who is a faculty member in language and literature, and Lynn Lisher is also a faculty member in language and literature, are very involved. They're right there with us in the Student Emergency Fund. So our idea was, once a student is referred by faculty, an advisor, a counselor, they can apply for assistance of up to $500 once per semester. It'll be reviewed by, right now, Denise and Lynn. Hopefully other people will want to become part of this initiative, and will pay the student's vendor directly. So we thought about rolling this out a little early. One of the reasons, push it harder, one of the reasons we didn't get it up and running sooner was because of the CARES Act and the money coming from the government, and we wanted to let the dust settle on the CARES Act money before we launched, because what our college is doing with the CARES Act money is financial aid generated a list of all the students who are eligible per the Department of Education to receive funds from the CARES Act, and those students are applying. If they're not currently eligible, they can take steps to become eligible, and so we wanted to make sure that that money was used first, and any students who didn't qualify for the CARES Act, we could come in July and begin to help them. I'll go on a little bit of a soapbox for just a second about the CARES Act, and one of the things that it doesn't do is it doesn't help some of our really most vulnerable students. So one of the things that I've learned in doing this work is that some students are really leading some complicated lives. One of the requirements for the CARES Act money is that you have to have a FAFSA on file. There are some students for whom they have such contentious relationships with their parents, or their parents are in this totally messy divorce situation, but one parent or the other is still claiming them on their as a dependent, and they can't even fill out a FAFSA, right, to get funding for loans, or much less than the CARES Act funding. So some of these students are being completely shut out of assistance from the government. So we want to make sure that we're helping those students as a priority group. So some of the things that we will not consider is tuition, fees, non-essential bills, parking tickets, library fines, and accidental expenses incurred. So some of the things that we're probably going to be funding, just talking to some other folks who are doing this work at other universities and colleges, are going to be things like electric bills. Broken computers is a big one. Not as much of an issue now, but in talking to students through the past couple years, transportation has been a huge issue. So we know that there are some things that'll be coming down the pipeline.
So as Sam mentioned, part of the ways we've been able to get the food assistance program up and running so quickly and now this emergency fund was really the partnerships that we've been able to make in the community. United Way of Bucks has been a great partner and advocate for us and kind of help us navigate, making sure we're following best practices and things of that nature. The Magic Charities Foundation has been both a financial supporter and, they donated all that food for our students and they're interested in doing more to help us. The Bucks County Opportunity Council has been huge. And there's, one thing that we learned, and that I learned pretty quickly in this role is that there's so many people in Bucks County who really want to help and they're really grateful to have the community college in our community. And they really want to see our students succeed. And there seems to be this mindset of all of these partners that education really is that piece that can change your life. So they want to support our students and as much as possible. So it's really those partnerships that have allowed us to get these things up and running.
And I have a lot of
questions. So we wanted to share some feedback that
it sounds like, sorry to interrupt. Sounds like there's some background noise from someone. Do you hear that, or is it just me?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
There is.
Okay.
Thank you, Henry. Juliana, are you still here? Yes, I'm here.
That's weird.
Okay, could you answer that question in terms of how you...
It's another presentation, it sounds like.
That is bizarre.
That is weird. Deb, any ideas?
No idea. I don't know that we know how to do this quite this large yet.
Yeah.
Maybe
I can text Damon and ask him, but I don't know if he'll be able to do anything about it.
It says that Kate is talking.
I have a lot of.
I don't know if there's a Kate.
Kate Diaria?
Going on. I'll be like, I have to study this time or something, but then I like do a lot of them, but then
I'll text Damon.
One of them.
Thank you.
I think there's probably several people not muted and they're listening to multiple presentations.
Oh, that's interesting.
Maybe we can message Kate.
As I'm studying or trying to learn something.
Oh, did it go away?
As presenters, are you able to just mute everyone?
Or kind of little like.
I tried to. Let's see.
Okay.
Points.
I've not used this software before.
This is also my first time. Which is probably apparent. But you know what? I'm not in as a presenter, I don't think.
Remember things. Especially during the time with like the online stuff, there was a lot of stuff online. And for me, when it's on like a screen.
Well, in the meantime, if you want to read the screen, these are responses directly from our students who came to one of our food distributions. We asked them if they had anything they wanted to share about their experience, and everything they said was in line with the two statements that are here. And it when students tell you this stuff, it really helps you realize you're doing the right thing, you're on the right track, and you just have to keep doing it.
These are some excellent students you have.
I'm curious what their presentation is about.
Yeah.
So this was kind of like our last slide anyway, right, Sam?
Yeah, and we wanted to have ample time for discussion, questions, and particularly if there are folks from other institutions, we'd love to hear what you're doing on your campuses. or what you're thinking about doing on your campuses. So we want to open it up to the participants for questions and comments.
And can you share any insight that you've had from helping peers who struggle more than you do?
So Sam,
Yeah.
maybe what can happen is reaching out to faculty now that this semester is over and we've done the grades and graduation, and maybe asking us for donations so you can start building a fund, or even start using it, because I'm watching the job numbers. They're not good, and
No.
needs just going to go up.
Yeah.
And then also, Christina, you might be familiar with 100 Plus Women. So I'm not sure if you joined. I'm definitely a member, and I can put, if you give me the right text to write on at the next meeting, put this fund into the pool, and maybe it'll get pulled. For Deb and Betsy, if you're not familiar, 100 Plus Women gave almost $9,000 a year, $9,000 a few years ago to scholarships for women at Buck. So they tend to support the basic needs, and it's literally a draw if you can get your organization pulled so that they can present at the next meeting. But I'll definitely submit this. Just give me the right text to write, like Bucks County Community College Student Fund or whatever.
Okay,
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Betsy, I think you had a question.
Actually, more of a statement, but yes, I know Sam knows this. Years ago, we had the Act 101 program. Residual of that is left in terms of the KEYS program, but that serves way fewer students than we did because the Act 101 restrictions weren't as tight. But my point actually is during that time, the students in the Act 101 program formed a club. It's called Faith, Hope, and Charity. It's still in the list of clubs. It's been dormant for probably 10 years now or close to it. But it was kind of, the whole point of it was students helping students. We find in the world often the neediest people are the ones who are most likely to step up and help others. And that was kind of how it was. I was the advisor to it for I think 15 years, and then it went to June Rogers, who now is the coordinator for KEYS, for a time. But then they dissolved Act 101, and the club kind of went with it. But my point is, I'm wondering if there could be a way to get more students involved in this type of thing by maybe not necessarily resurrecting Faith, Hope, and Charity, but maybe putting together something. I think there could be a lot of help, and it could be a great community service for students to be more involved in these initiatives.
It's a great idea.
That's a great point. I do know that before we went remote, the Honors at Bucks Club was going to partner with us for the food pantry, so they were interested in helping to, they wanted to do school supplies packs for those students and then write a little encouraging note in it, which I thought was very sweet. But there's definitely an opportunity for students to help one another. I would love to see that also.
Yeah, because it's great if other clubs and existing clubs and organizations do something like this as their community service, because there is the requirement for community service. But to have an organization specifically geared toward this purpose, that's inclusive of all students, not just honor students or not just business students or something like that, might be something worth revisiting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we did have early on a couple members from, I think it's just called the Catholic Club. What is the Catholic?
I think it's
Club.
The Catholic Club.
Mm-hmm. Is it? Okay. And they joined some of our early meetings But as you know, the attrition,
Yeah,
out of the school. So, and then if the next generation is not as interested, so,
for
but
sure.
I think that's one, an excellent, excellent idea. And I especially like the idea to have a club that's sort of like a direct partner for us.
I saw that Jennifer typed in a question. She asked, was this
Oh,
project supported by the institution or a private initiative from the faculty? Um, it started up because people were interested in helping students. And I think that kind of like on a volunteer basis, like we all said, hey, this is a problem. Let's come together and see what we can do about it. And then all the funds that we've received were completely through donations. So it's supported by the institution in some ways. There was a part-time case manager hired, and they're certainly they like that we're doing this, but there hasn't, in terms of monetary support, it's really just been for that part-time caseworker. I think in the future, I'd love to see as it grows and expands, more of a financial commitment from the college, but maybe more so down the line.
hmm the provost. I work in the provost's office, and she has been very interested from the start. And in fact, when I started in my position 3 years ago, and very early on in my role in the provost's office, she handed me a big folder and it said pantries, and gave it to me and said, look through this. So we've had a lot of support from the provost's office. It's something that is part of my role, which I really appreciate. And I think we have the syllabus statement, and all of our syllabi automatically have basic needs statement, and that was done through our shared governance, which I think shows institutional support. It started in, I think it was initiated with the Dean's Council and our Student Affairs Committee, sent to our Academic Affairs Committee, and then up to advisory, and then signed by the president. So I think that was a good example of really a shared institutional support of what we're doing. Any other questions or thoughts?
Yeah, Betsy had brought up Act 101.
Yeah.
I think that Patty Smallacombe, who oversees our grants, is looking into that again and trying to gather information on, can we bring that back?
Yeah, I know Sam and I briefly had a conversation, actually, probably it's a couple years ago now. So I actually was the assistant director and counselor for the Act 101 program, and then briefly I was the acting director before it was dismantled. And the biggest issue was that the college did not feel that the required contribution was something they wanted to continue to budget for.
Mm-hmm.
So it was never an issue of, we could get the Act 101 monies, but to run a program, you need the college match. And in the current climate,
yeah,
I mean, I'm never, no one would call me a pessimist, but, I like the idea of, certainly pursuing that, also looking at what other avenues we have to serve the population without maybe having the financial contribution.
Yeah.
Like organizations, like, when we first heard that it was dissolving, I was pushing for it's now the Career Center, was where the Act 101 program was housed, of at least keeping the place for the students to just have the camaraderie of knowing there are other people out there that aren't, that are in similar situations and things like that. And, it kind of came down to, again, the KEYS program, which does still exist, much, much smaller, much less interactive program than when we had Act 101 and KEYS kind of combined when KEYS came about. So it was a good robust 50, 60 students consistently utilizing the services, but more importantly, having each other, in a community kind of situation. And I think that's what's missing more than anything.
Yeah.
My 2 cents there.
Something else. Yeah.
Yeah, Betsy, what was the match? Is it dollar for dollar or?
I think, and forgive me because now things are vague. I've been so far removed from it for so many years at this point. But I think there was a required match, and then some schools went above that. It was not a dollar for dollar. Don't quote me, please. This is being recorded, so I think maybe Bucks was something like a 1/3 match, is what I'm remembering.
Still significant. Okay.
You know what was interesting? I know in the research Patty did, it was hard to find out how much the match had to be and if it could be in kind. Like there was a lot of information that was just not forthcoming.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, and that is an interesting concept that maybe if we could be in kind, we could kind of work with that. Because frankly, and to be completely honest, like we had our own tutoring, we had our own counseling, and we really didn't need to have those things if we could use our existing services for those things. Act 101 didn't provide any financial help to the students. They were all eligible by definition for financial aid. So it could really be done on a very small budget. It would just be great if there was a place that they could go, kind of like the veterans like lounge or some kind of thing like that. I think honestly, that's the biggest piece that they missed when it dissolved. The students who were currently in it were just beside themselves and felt very disenfranchised at that point.
So there was like an affinity group of students.
Yeah, very much so.
Was that part of the program, or did they do that on their own?
Well, we had the place for them to congregate, and these were not only students who were low income, but they were educationally challenged, and most of them were single parents.
Yeah.
So when you're in a classroom full of 18, 19-year-olds, you're not feeling a connection. But they felt the connection when they came to the goals office, and they were there between classes at lunch. And even if we did nothing other than let them congregate, that was a great benefit to them.
Yeah. Great. I'm not sure what timing. Okay. What time is this done? 11:30? Or now?
I don't know.
11:15.
Okay, now.
Oh, so we're a little over.
Don't quote me on that. I don't have the agenda up.
But since we're already over, any other questions or comments before we have to wrap it up?
Thank you guys for taking care of our students and caring about them.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. You guys have done a great job.
Thank
And
you
support.
too. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. And enjoy your next session.